pushed over the edge, either to do something negative, something positive, or even just to save ourselves. That is the focus of this video today. And we're going to answer a pertinent question that must be nagging many Kenyans. And the question is, what pushed Ruto over the edge to reach out to the man he had sworn several times never to have a nusu mkate government with, never to cooperate with? What pushed Ruto over the edge to make that move? To swallow his own words? Okay? Now, the answer to that question, I guarantee you, will shock most of us to our very bones. Okay? And I'll come back to that shortly. Meanwhile, how have people received Raila Odinga after the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with the UDA party? Well, that reception was very predictable. And as I was coming in to make this recording, I received unconfirmed reports that Raila had actually been jeered and booed somewhere in the country called Kenya. Now, of course, I'm going through my usual procedure of verification. But if this is true, if this is true, then we need to understand it will be the very first time in the very long, illustrious career of one Raila Odinga for something like this to happen to him. And what it signals is that that mood we're talking about, the mood of the Kenyan people right now, is not something to be ignored. Now, of course, I know that many of you will shoot back and say, Chris, that does not surprise me. It was expected. Chris, where have you been? Don't you read posts on social media? Aren't you listening to people on the ground, how they're talking? Come on, Chris. Why should this surprise you? Why should this be such a big deal? This is exactly what we expected. Okay, I hear you. Yeah, but expecting and anticipating something is not the same as that very thing unfolding before your very eyes. And especially for us older Kenyans who have seen better days in Raila Amolo Odinga's political life. Now, very quickly before we proceed, in case there's still a few people out there who want to take advantage of my very latest special offer for sponsoring a video on this channel as a way of creating awareness, for your product, service, whatever you're selling. We have had great success on this channel for people disposing of property. In case you fall under that category, these are the very last few hours where you can take full advantage of our very special offer. For only $7,999. Okay, you can see details on your screens right now. Please move with speed, because this offer will no longer be there the minute I produce my next video. Right, let's proceed. People do not ordinarily give political power to their political rivals just like that. Something usually pushes them over the edge for them to consider this very painful, uncomfortable circumstance of swallowing your own words and inviting your political rival, sometimes your bitter political rival, into your government, and giving them power and allowing them to govern with you. Literally. When the second president of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, invited Raila Odinga's party into KANU, actually merged Raila Odinga's party, I believe it was called NDP, with KANU, Moi had been pushed over the edge by the multi-party juggernaut, the multi-party monster in the eyes of Moi. I believe the wake-up call for Moi, because the sycophants of Moi used to tell him a lot of lies, I'm sure. But the wake-up call for Moi was when the very first opposition rally for the then Ford pressure group, which later birthed the Ford Party, Forum for the Restoration of Democracy. The wake-up call for Moi must have been when Ford had a meeting at Kumekucha. The place was packed. And the massive crowd was like one person with only one agenda. Moi must go. And from then on, it was downhill for Moi. He really struggled under the new multi-party system. And after the 1997 general elections, after all that pressure, after all that angaikari here and there, indeed if you look at Moi photographs from the time, you will notice that between 1991 and the time he retired, he aged considerably, very quickly. Okay? It was not a joke. And so at the tail end of the 1997 general elections, Moi was a very different man. And this set the stage for the merger, which shocked many Kenyans, between KANU and Raila Odinga's NDP, National Development Party. Less than 10 years later, it was the horrific, terrifying clashes that forced Mwai Kibaki onto the negotiation table, because initially he was very stubborn. He said he had been duly elected. He was not going to talk to anybody. Negotiate what? He said. But finally, due to international pressure, there was a lot of pressure from the international community. Indeed, I was told that at one point, that a major Western power told Kibaki in the face that they would use military force to remove him if he did not play ball. I'm telling you, Kibaki was as stubborn as they come. Huyo mzee. And so what pushed him over the edge was this international pressure, which highlighted what had just unfolded in our country. So many Kenyans, especially innocent Kenyans, children and women, losing their precious lives for nothing. Okay? But what pushed former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta over the edge, in my opinion, is the most fascinating, the most interesting. And I know some of us know, but I believe many of us do not yet know. Okay? And it is the following. When Uhuru and Ruto came together initially, Uhuru was very trusting. And despite many warnings from those close to him, he continued to completely trust his deputy. Now, after the 2017 general elections, it was brought to the attention of the president that actually somebody else had the power, the sway, and the majority in parliament. Now, of course, that has very far-reaching possible consequences. Top on the list was the fact that this other person could easily use their power and their majority in parliament to successfully impeach President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That is what pushed Uhuru over the edge to shake hands with Raila Amolo Odinga. And of course, that other person who had all the power was the then Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto. Okay? Now fast forward to the present. What has pushed Ruto over the edge I believe will surprise and shock many of us. Okay? And it is the following. Actually, it's very scary. You see where the country has reached today. Kenya is very broke. Kenya, and her economy especially, are in the high dependency unit. ICU, we used to call it in the old days. And things are so bad that there's no other option for the country right now but to take the road of austerity measures. Now, bila kizungu mingi, this is going to have very far-reaching, difficult, punishing consequences on the people of Kenya. Okay? And please bear in mind, this is no longer an option. It is the only way. And so, the reason why it was so urgent to reach an agreement with Raila is that there is no way these austerity measures can be introduced without political goodwill towards the government, which of course Ruto has lost, which of course the Ruto regime does not have. And therefore, Ruto really had no other option but to look for the most popular politician in the country today, the most influential, although all that is past tense now. Okay? I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. He had no option but to look for Raila. Now, this is where kinaumana kumana. Because, as we have said in a previous video, Raila is not the Raila of yesteryears. Raila is no longer as powerful and influential as he once was. Which means this move will not work. And yet the austerity measures must be implemented for the country called Kenya to survive. Okay? That is how bad things are. Jijazie mwenyewe. It means that very soon, very quickly, we are moving into a serious crisis in the nation. And I believe most of us understand precisely what I am saying. And if it is true that Raila Odinga is getting jeered and booed in places where only yesterday or only the other day he was being wildly cheered, then what that means is that things are a lot worse than any of us can imagine. Let us continue praying for our nation, and let us remember to get our things right with our Maker, so as to be able to effectively pray for our very own preservation, and also the preservation of our families, our loved ones, and those who are close to us. Oh, and there's one last thing I forgot, which I believe is important. If the prophecy and the predictions by some people is correct, then what it means is that 99.9% of this time of difficulty in our country, times of kukaza mshipi, kaza belt, times of hardships, 99.9% of these times we will go through when Ruto is no longer president. According to these predictions, the Ruto presidency will have ended. Now, when you look at all that is happening in the country and the way the Ruto presidency is struggling and the way it is cornered, that is not a very difficult prediction to believe. But let us wait and see what happens. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.